Hello students, welcome to my channel Learning History Made Easy. From today, I'll be uploading videos on the subject Political Science. The videos will be uploaded in a separate playlist named as Political Science. Before getting into the video, if anyone is seeing the channel for the first time, or if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share it with your friends. And also click the bell button to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. So without wasting time, let us get into today's video. Today's video will be about the first chapter in your political science textbook, that is Origin and Growth of Indian Political System. So today we will be seeing the first topic, that is Government of India Act 1935. Okay, so today's class will be about the Government of India Act, Government of India Act 1935. So before going into the details about this act, let us see the background which was there in India, which led to the coming of this act. So the time was of the Indian freedom struggle. The Indian freedom struggle was the greatest mass movement in world history. So it was a great movement in Indian history, and there were many important leaders who fought for India's freedom. So we can say Dadabhai Nauroji. Dadabhai Nauroji was one of a great leader. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Okay, MK Gandhi, then Jawaharlal Nehru, etc. Many leaders were there. Jawaharlal Nehru, Dadabhai Nauroji, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. All these leaders, what they did is they mobilized the people. They made the people come together into a political action, and they devoted their lives for the movement. So these leaders, they mobilized the people. Okay, mobilized the people, and they made the people to fight for the freedom, and also they themselves dedicated their entire life for the purpose of India's freedom. So independent India, so after that India got independence, and independent India had several tasks. Okay, India after getting independence, or independent India had several tasks. Okay, which were these tasks which were there for independent India? So let us see. So as I have said, independent India had several tasks. One of the important tasks was framing a constitution. Framing a constitution. Any independent country needs a proper constitution. So framing a constitution, that is a book of laws, a book of rules and regulations for the country. So framing a constitution was an important task for independent India. And they had to build a responsible and representative democracy. Okay, they had to build a responsible and representative democracy. And they also had to push the process of nation building. They had to push the process of nation building. So all these tasks were there for independent India: framing a constitution, building a responsible and representative democracy, pushing the process of nation building. All these were the tasks before independent India. And British government granted its recognition and royal charter to East India Company in 1600. So now let us go back before India's freedom. What was the incidents or events before India got its freedom? So the British government granted its recognition and royal charter to the East India Company in 1600. Okay, in 1600, the royal charter was given by the British government to East India Company. And political power, basically the political power was captured after the Battle of Plassey. After the Battle of Plassey, British captured the political power, that is in 1757. So charter was given to the East India Company in 1600, and after the Battle of Plassey, in which Sirajud-Dowlah fought with the British, and the political power was captured in 1757. So that was the incident which led to the coming of British rule in India. Now afterwards many events happened, and if you see the Sepoy Mutiny, which is also called as the First War of Indian Independence, which took place in 1857. This Sepoy Mutiny led to the transfer of power to the British Crown. Sepoy Mutiny, which is also called as 1857 Revolt or the First War of Indian Independence. After that, the power was transferred to the British Crown. Later, in 1885, one of a very famous or notable incident or event happened, that is the establishment of Indian National Congress, INC, that is Indian National Congress. It happened in 1885. Indian National Congress was established, and Indian National Congress pressurized the British to meet the demands for independence. Indian National Congress was the one who pressurized the British for the cause of Indian independence. Okay, Indian independence. Now British, as Indian National Congress started to pressurize the British responded. How did the British respond? British responded through various acts. Okay, when the Indian National Congress started demanding independence, the British, they responded. How did they respond? The British responded through various acts. Many acts were passed by the British. So the first important act was the Morley-Minto Reform. Morley-Minto Reform was the first important act in 1909. Then another important act was the Montague-Chelmsford Reform. Montague-Chelmsford Report. This was in 1919. Then the Government of India Act. That is in 1935. Then Indian Independence Act. Indian Independence Act of 1947. All these were the important acts through which the British responded Indian National Congress demand for independence. Morley-Minto Reform 1909, Montague-Chelmsford Report in 1919, Government of India Act 1935, and Indian Independence Act 1947. All these were the important acts in the evolution of Indian Constitution. The 1909 Act, that is Morley-Minto Reform Act of 1909, was to give opportunities to native elements of Indian society. Okay, this act, that is, now let us see each act one by one. Okay, so let us see the Morley-Minto Reform of 1909. This act was to give opportunities to native elements of Indian society, that is, native elements of Indian society was given opportunity to take part in the government. Okay, to take part in the government and to provide separate electorates for Muslims. Separate electorates for Muslims. So this was the purpose of the Morley-Minto Reform Act, that is, to provide opportunity to native elements of Indian society to take part in the government and also to provide separate electorates for Muslims. So that was the first act in 1909, Morley-Minto Act. Now the second act which we saw, that is the Montague-Chelmsford Reform, that is the Act of 1919, Montague-Chelmsford Report. This indicates responsible government in India. Okay, that is, this indicates responsible government in India and to introduce diarchy. That was a very important thing which was introduced by the Act of 1919, that is Montague-Chelmsford. Okay, here I will write Montague-Chelmsford report. It aimed at indicates a responsible government in India and also to introduce diarchy. Diarchy is dual government in British province. Dual government in British province. That is diarchy, dual government, double. That is dual government in British province was called as a diarchy. So that was the purpose of the Act of 1919, that is Montague-Chelmsford report. So after this came the Government of India Act of 1935, which we should learn in detail. So before going into that, whatever points we have studied till now, let us just see the points. Government of that is chapter 1, Origin and Growth of Indian Political System. The Indian freedom struggle was the greatest mass movement in world history. Many great leaders like Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, etc. mobilized millions of people into political action and devoted their lives for the movement. Independent India had the task of territorial and administrative integration of India, framing the constitution and building a responsible and representative democracy, pushing the process of nation building. The British government granted its recognition and royal charter to the East India Company in 1600. Political power was captured after the Battle of Plassey in 1757. The Sepoy Mutiny took place in 1857, which led to the transfer of power to the British Crown. The establishment of Indian National Congress in 1885 is one of the notable events. It was successful in pressurizing the British to meet the demands for independence. British responded through various acts. The Morley-Minto Reform of 1909, Montague-Chelmsford Report of 1919, Government of India Act 1935, Indian Independence Act of 1947 are important in the process of evolution of the Constitution of India. 1909 Act was to give opportunities to the native elements of Indian society to take part in the government and to provide separate electorates to Muslims. Act of 1919 indicates responsible government in India and to introduce diarchy, that is dual government in the British provinces. Now let us move on to the Government of India Act 1935. That is the main topic which should be learned in detail. That is Government of India Act 1935. Okay. So, Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi started agitation for Swaraj. So, British government was responding through many acts, and Gandhiji, what he did was, Gandhiji started agitation for Swaraj, demanding for Swaraj, and he wanted to attain it through non-cooperation. Non-cooperation. As per the Government of India Act 1919, as per the Act of 1919, a statutory commission was to be appointed. Statutory commission was to be appointed for the purpose of inquiring into the working of the system. See, a statutory commission means this is a group appointed by the British for making recommendations. So a group was appointed by the British to make recommendations and to inquire into the report of 1919 Act. So this statutory commission, that is, it was called as Simon Commission. Simon Commission, and it was headed by Sir John Simon. Okay, Sir John Simon, a commission was appointed in 1927. This was appointed in 1927 to inquire into the report of 1919 Act. And this commission Even though there was so many agitation or protest in India against this commission, the commission visited India. And the commission was headed by Sir John Simon. It consisted of 7 members from British Parliament. Okay, this commission had 7 members from British Parliament, British Parliament, and it is said that there was not even a single Indian member, no Indian member. And that is why there was a lot of protest against this commission, and Simon Go Back was their famous slogan. But amidst all these protests, this commission visited India. Okay, the commission visited India amidst all these protests. Now, after the commission visited India, it announced in 1929 that dominion status was the goal of Indian development. Dominion status was the goal of Indian development. That was what was announced by the Simon Commission. And after the visit of Simon Commission, round table conferences happened. There was 3 round table conferences which happened after that. The first round table conference happened in 1930. The second round table conference happened in 1931, and the third round table conference happened in 1932. So like this, the 3 round table conference also happened after the visit of Simon Commission. And a Simon Commission brought the report of the resolution of the conferences, but Gandhiji opposed for separate electorate for untouchables. Now, when Simon Commission brought a report, okay, and Gandhiji he opposed the separate electorates for untouchables, opposed for separate electorates for untouchables. Okay, so the Simon Commission brought the report of resolutions of the conferences, but Gandhiji opposed for separate electorates for untouchables. Now, when Gandhiji opposed for this separate electorates for untouchables, the next thing which happened was Congress leaders met Gandhiji in this regard, and the resolution was modified. Okay, what was the modified resolution? The resolution was modified by providing reservation for depressed classes. Okay, reservation for depressed classes instead of separate electorates for untouchables. So that was what Gandhiji was opposing. But instead of separate electorates for untouchables, the resolution was modified like reservation for depressed classes. This is known as Pune Pact. Okay, this is called as Pune Pact. It was signed by Gandhiji and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Gandhiji and Ambedkar, they signed the Pune Pact. And after that, a white paper was prepared as a result of these conference. In accordance with all these recommendations, the Government of India Act of 1935 was passed. Government of India Act of 1935 was passed as a result of these conferences. That is, a white paper was prepared as a result of these conferences, and in accordance with all its recommendations were written, and in accordance with all its recommendations, the Government of India Act was passed in 1935. And this act, the Government of India Act, it contained 321 articles and 10 schedules. Okay, 321 articles and 10 schedules. That is a very important point, which was included in the Government of India Act of 1935. 321 articles and 10 schedules. So this is how the Government of India Act of 1935 was passed. Now we have to see the provisions of the Act. Before that, we will just see the points which we have studied till now. Okay. The Government of India Act 1935. Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi started agitation for Swaraj to be attained through non-cooperation. As per the Government of India Act 1919, a statutory commission was to be appointed for the purpose of inquiry into the working of the system. The British government appointed a statutory commission, Simon Commission, in 1927 to inquire into the report of 1919 Act. The commission, headed by Sir John Simon, consisted of 7 members from British Parliament and did not have a single Indian member. The commission visited India amidst protest. It announced in 1929 that dominion status was the goal of Indian development. The first roundtable conference was held in 1930, the second in 1931 and the third in 1932. Simon Commission brought the report of the resolutions of the conferences, but Gandhiji opposed for separate electorates for untouchables. Congress leaders met Gandhiji in this regard, and the resolution was modified by providing reservation for depressed classes instead of separate electorate for untouchables. This is known as Pune Pact, signed by Gandhiji and Ambedkar. A white paper was prepared as a result of these conferences, and in accordance with its recommendations, Government of India Act 1935 was passed. The Act contained 321 articles and 10 schedules. Now let us go through the provisions of the Government of India Act of 1935. Okay, so the important provisions, main provisions of the Act of 1935. Okay, so the first one is federation. Okay, so federation. The Act provided for the establishment of Federation of India. Federation of India. So federation basically means a group of states. There are a group of states with central government but independent of their internal affairs. Okay, group of states with the central government. So the Act provided for the establishment of a Federation of India consisting of provinces of British India, provinces of British India, and also the princely states. Princely states. So the Federation of India will consist of provinces of British India and also princely states. All those together will be called as Federation of India. So that was the first provision, or one of the main provision of Government of India Act of 1935. The second provision was distribution of power. Distribution of power. Now, legislative power. Okay, legislative power. That is mainly the power to make laws. That is legislative power. Legislative power was divided between central and provincial legislature. Provincial legislature. Okay, so the power, the legislative power was divided into two, between the central and the provincial legislature. So that is how the legislative power was divided. And this division, that is division of power between the central and provincial legislature, there was again a threefold division. That is, 3 lists were there. That is federal list. Okay, federal list consisted of 59 subjects. Example, that is external affairs, currency, etc. All these subjects like external affair, currency, like that 59 subjects were there in federal list, over which the federal legislature had the legislative power. In this federal list, the federal legislature has the power, as the legislative power. Now there is another, a second list, that is called as the provincial list. Okay, provincial list, in which there are 54 subjects. 54 subjects. Example, the police, education, etc. Subjects like police, education, etc. Over which the provincial legislature has the jurisdiction. Provincial legislature has the jurisdiction. So power is divided between the center and the provinces, and in that the threefold division of subjects are there. That is, first list is federal list, 59 subjects are there. In that, federal legislature has the power to make laws regarding these subjects. Second is provincial list, that is 54 subjects like police, education. In that, provincial legislature has the power, that is has the jurisdiction. Now after this, there is also a third list, that is the third list is called as, okay, there is a third list. Third list is called as concurrent list. Concurrent list. In this list, 36 subjects are there. Example, the subjects like criminal law, civil procedure, marriage, etc. Marriage, etc. These are in the concurrent list, in which both, that is the federal legislature as well as the provincial legislature has the power, has the competence. So three list. So in the federation, the second point is about, so federation is the first point. In the federation, the power is distributed. Power is distributed into two, that is central and the provincial. Okay, central and the provincial. This is how the power is distributed. In this, there are threefold division. That is the federal list. Federal list has 59 subjects, and in this, the federal legislature has the power to make laws, that is legislative power. Second one is the provincial list. In the provincial list, there are 54 subjects in which the provincial legislature has the power, and then you have the concurrent list, in which there are 36 subjects in which both the provincial and the federal legislature has the competence. So this is how the division is made after the making of Federation of India. And finally, there is a fourth division, that is the residuary power. Residuary power, that is vested with the Governor General. Governor General has the residuary power. So this is how the division happens in the federation. Now the next important point regarding the Government of India, or next important provision regarding the Government of India Act 1935, the third one, that is diarchy at the center. Diarchy at the center. So diarchy already we have made, that is the dual government or double government introduced by Government of India Act in 1919. It was made, that is diarchy. Now here diarchy at the center means the executive authority. Executive authority was vested in the Governor General. Governor General. So the executive authority, that is the execution of things, was vested in the Governor General, and that included the following. That is, the authority of the Governor General included the administration of reserved subjects. Reserved subjects. See, before the last point we have studied that the residuary power was with the Governor General. So what are those powers? So executive authority with the Governor General included the following, that is administration of reserved subjects. Reserved subjects like defense, external affairs, etc. That is administration of reserved subjects. This was done by Governor General. And this administration of reserved subjects, which was done by Governor General with the help of councillors. Okay. Governor General with the help of councillors. who were not responsible to the legislature, but Governor General did the administration of these reserved subjects with the help of councillors. So that was the first thing included in the executive authority of Governor General, that is administration of reserved subjects. Now the second thing was in the matters of transferred subjects, other than reserved subjects, transferred subjects, the Governor General acted on the advice of Council of Ministers. Here also Governor General acted on the advice of Council of Ministers. So reserved subjects, then transferred subjects. So these two things were maintained by the Governor General. So that is diarchy at the center. Some executive authority was given to the Governor General regarding the administration of reserved subjects as well as regarding transferred subjects. In reserved subjects, Governor General was helped by councillors. Regarding transferred subjects, Governor General acted on the advice of Council of Ministers. Now the next provision regarding the Government of India Act 1935, the next important provision, that is the Federal Legislature. Fourth one, Federal Legislature. Okay. So Federal Legislature, the Central Legislature was bicameral. Bicameral Legislature consisting of Federal Assembly and the Council of States. Council of States. So if you see the central legislature is there as well as provincial legislature is there. In federal legislature, it was bicameral and the bicameral central legislature consisted of Federal Assembly as well as the Council of States. Now if you see the Council of States, Council of States, Council of States is the upper house, and it consisted of 260 members. The upper house consisted of 260 members, of which 156, that is almost 60%, was elected from British India. Okay, 60% was elected from British India, and 104, 40% were nominated by princely states. So the upper house, Council of States, consisted of 260 members, 156, 60% was from British India, and 104 were nominated by the princely states, that is 40% by the princely states. So that is about the Council of States, that is upper house. Now considering the Federal Assembly, that is the lower house, Federal Assembly, which is the lower house, it consisted of 375 members. The lower house consisted of 375 members, out of which 250, that is 67%, were elected by the legislative assemblies, and the balance 33%, that is 125, 33% were nominated by the rulers of princely states. So 375 members, that is 250, 67% was elected by legislative assemblies. They were elected by legislative assemblies, and 33% was nominated by princely states. So the council was a permanent body. So if you see the Council of States, the council was a permanent body, and 1/3 of the members will retire after 3 years. 1/3 members will retire after 3 years, and the term of the assembly was 5 years. Okay, term was 5 years. So Federal Assembly lower house, Council of States upper house. Council of States consisted of 260 members and the Federal Assembly consisted of 375 members. The council was a permanent body and one-third of its members retire after 3 years and the term was 5 years. And this bicameral legislature, so as we discussed, this bicameral legislature existed in Bengal, Bombay, Bihar and Madras. So bicameral legislature existed in Bengal, Bombay, Bihar and Madras. So this was about the diarchy at the center and the federal legislature. So before we go into the next important provision, let us just see the points which we have studied till now. The important provisions of the Act are: Federation. The Act provided for the establishment of Federation of India consisting of provinces of British India and princely states as units. Distribution of power. It's divided powers between central and provincial legislature. There are threefold divisions. Federal list consisting of 59 subjects like external affairs, currency, etc., over which federal legislature had legislative power. Provincial list consisted of 54 subjects, the police, education, etc., over which provincial legislature had jurisdiction. Concurrent list consisted of 36 subjects like criminal law, civil procedure, marriage, etc., over which both federal and provincial legislature had competence. The residuary power vested with Governor General. Now the diarchy at the center, the executive authority vested in the Governor General included the following: the administration of reserved subjects like defense, external affairs, etc. was done by Governor General with the help of councillors who were not responsible to the legislature. In the matters of transferred subject, the Governor General acted on the advice of Council of Ministers. The federal legislature, the central legislature was bicameral, consisted of Federal Assembly and Council of States. The Council of States upper house consisted of 260 members, out of which 156 were elected from British India and 104 were nominated by princely states. The Federal Assembly lower house consisted of 375 members, of which 250 were elected by Legislative Assembly and 125 nominated by the rulers of princely states. The council was a permanent body and one-third of its members were to retire after 3 years. The term of the assembly was 5 years and bicameral legislature existed in Bombay, Bengal, Bihar and Madras. Now let us move on to the next provision of Government of India Act 1935. Okay, that is next one, that is the fifth one, is Federal Court. Federal Court. So it provided for the first time the establishment of It provided for the establishment of Federal Court of India in Delhi. Federal Court of India in Delhi. And it was established in 1937 and it consisted of a Chief Justice and 6 additional judges. 6 additional judges. So like this, a Federal Court of India was established at Delhi 1937 with a Chief Justice and 6 additional judges, and it was the highest court in India and it functioned in India for about 12 years. So this Federal Court was the highest court in India and it functioned in India for about 12 years. So that was an important provision of the Government of India Act of 1935. Now the sixth provision was provincial autonomy. By this act, the provinces became autonomous units. So from the name itself, it suggests the provinces became autonomous. That is, it became independent of any external interference. It became autonomous. And it was introduced in 11 provinces. This provincial autonomy was introduced in 11 provinces. Example, Madras, Bengal, Bombay, etc. Okay. I'm not telling the 11 names, but it was established in 11 provinces like Madras, Bengal, Bombay, Assam, Northwestern Frontier Province. All these provinces, this provincial autonomy was established. and provinces were administered by ministers. These provinces, which were given autonomy, were administered by ministers, and all subjects were placed under charges of ministers. And the legislative relation between central government and provinces were regulated according to three lists of subjects provided under the Act. So the legislative relations between the center and the province, there was relation between the center and the central government and the provincial government, provinces. The legislative relation was maintained according to the subjects provided in the Act. Okay, according to the subjects provided in the Act. Now, after these were the main these were the main provisions of the Act of 1935. But even though all these provisions were made, dominion status, okay, dominion status, which was promised by the Simon Commission, which was promised by the Simon Commission, was not conferred by this Act, not conferred. Okay, so this Act of 1935 came after the Simon Commission visited India. But Simon Commission had promised a dominion status, but that was not conferred by this Act of 1935. Then next one, the intention to establish a Federation of India, Federation of India, it did not materialize. It did not materialize completely. Okay, so that intention for establishing a Federation of India did not materialize. And the degree of provincial autonomy, so finally we said provincial autonomy, the degree of provincial autonomy introduced at the provincial level was limited. Okay, this provincial autonomy which was introduced, it was not full, it was limited, as the central government retained important powers. The important powers were with the central government, so the concept of provincial autonomy also was limited. So these were some of the drawbacks of the Government of India Act of 1935. So let us just go through the final points. Federal Court, it provided for the first time the establishment of a federal court for India in Delhi. It was established in 1937 and consisted of a Chief Justice and 6 additional judges. It was the highest court in India and functioned in India for about 12 years. Provincial autonomy. By this act, the provinces became autonomous units of administration. It was introduced in 11 provinces: Madras, Bengal, Bombay, United Provinces, Punjab, Bihar, Central Provinces, Assam, Northwestern Frontier Province, Orissa and Sindh. Provinces were administered by ministers and all subjects were placed under the charge of ministers. The legislative relation between central government and provinces were regulated according to 3 lists of subjects provided under the Act. Dominion status, which was promised by the Simon Commission, was not conferred by this Act. The intention to establish Federation of India did not materialize, and the degree of provincial autonomy introduced at provincial level was limited as central government retained important powers. So all these are the points regarding the Government of India Act 1935. Now just let us see some questions regarding the topic which we have studied. When did India become independent? 1947. When did the Constitution of India come into force? 26 January 1950. When was the Indian National Congress formed? 1885. Which act transferred power from the company to the Crown? British Crown Act of 1858. What is diarchy? It is dual government in British provinces. Why was a statutory commission formed? A statutory commission was appointed in 1927 to inquire into the report of 1919 Act. What did Simon Commission recommend? Simon Commission announced in 1929 that dominion status was the goal of Indian development. When was the 3 roundtable conferences held? The first roundtable conference was held in 1930, second in 1931 and third in 1932. Mention any one important provision of Government of India Act 1935. Federation, the act provided for the establishment of Federation of India, and you can write distribution of power. It divided legislative power between central and provincial legislature. When was Federal Court established and where? Federal Court was established in 1937 in Delhi. Explain in detail the Government of India Act of 1935. So all the points which I have explained under the topic Government of India Act 1935 and the provisions of the Act, you can write as the answer. First, the situation which led to the introduction of Government of India Act, you can write as an introduction. Then you can go to the important provisions, that is federation, distribution of power. Then you can write about the federal list, provincial list and concurrent list. Then hierarchy at the center. Then the federal legislature, that is Council of States and Federal Assembly. Then you can write about the federal court and the provincial autonomy. So this is how you can write this answer, all the points which I have explained in the topic Government of India Act 1935. So these are some questions regarding the topics which I have explained today. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. And also don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Your likes and shares will be of a great encouragement for me to make more and more videos. So I hope to see you all soon in the coming video. Thank you for watching.